If there's one lesson that we've learnt today, that is the lesson.
Ahead of me, so.
Eric, oh
yeah,
got a bit carried away trying to swing him.
Chunky roach, wasn't it?
Yeah, but
Some underwater. Some underwater, yeah. I just put it on because it was about this time, a couple of years ago, we shot that, and it was obviously a mega day, obviously on the Stainforth and Keighley Canal, seeing a massive pike come in front of the camera, roach holding the bait up, holding it in the mouth, perch holding it in the mouth for like 5-10 seconds before you even seen a bite, and then eventually saw you bite. Fantastic filming, I thought, as well.
Very good, very good.
I just thought it was quite apt on this time of year because there's loads of silverfish on natural venues happening, especially this weekend with a lot of venues maybe having a bit of ice on top of them. And
I've been back and I've watched that video a couple of times, Rob, recently, like bits of it, because there were so many interesting points in that video for me with the feeding, and I reference it all the time. Like when I'm talking to somebody, I was talking to Dan Webb the other day about ground bait and feeding and that, and I was making that point about that we learned in the video, you know, with the amount of bait and when, and because he was like, "Why have you fed it?" We talk about Meadowlands. He said, "Why did you feed it like that? I don't get it." And I said, "I was just trying to catch the fish. I wasn't trying to feed the fish at that particular time." And I explained that video because it was so, for me, it was so eye-opening, the difference between catching and feeding, and that it made such a big difference, didn't it? So
yeah, Jude, if you fed it with a pot, which probably not something I would have done. I'd have been a bit more loose feed, a little bit more little and often, but
yeah, obviously for the benefits of the film, it was perfect. You could drop it right in front of the camera with the pot, couldn't we? Yeah. And the amount of bait, it was all about the amount of bait. So if you're a member and you're a recent member, go and watch that. That is the one I would tonight go and watch.
Yeah, that has been our most. We've done obviously underwater videos with method feeders, pellet feeders, margin fishing for carp, and shallow fishing as well for silvers and F1s. And remarkably, that is something that I just never thought. The silverfish one on a natural venue shows there is a few people who like that silverfish fishing because silverfish fishing natural venue has been our most popular video.
Why don't you touch on then what we've got coming up as a little?
Yeah, we could do.
Just a little touch. I think we'll go into it maybe next week, but just go on, give them a little hint.
So for Christmas, over the Christmas period, we've got one. I'm saying it's 1 3/4 of a video of videos. So we're going to release a proper main underwater video, which is. The venue we went to, it was like looking through literally like a pane of glass. It was that clear. Natural venue again, but we fished it with a commercial twist. So with pellets and corn. So the methods we've used have been really apt for your commercial fishery work. The venue gives you a massive insight into how natural venues
proper fish as well, Rob, not little fish.
Big bream and tench. And it was like, wow, this is amazing. And then we switched it over, fished with different baits later on in the session. And we're going to release that as, not as a full video, you know, not as our full video that goes onto the site as our monthly video, but a proper in-depth look at bait changes and what happens.
So the full video is the underwater pellets and corn. And then the backup video is what will happen when we change baits. But
I'd love to
cover that more coming soon. But that is one to watch out for because I tell you now.
While you're talking, I'm going to try and get a little bit of footage from it, Lee. So obviously guys can see how.
So it's the clearest venue we've ever been to, and it was bizarre for me because I had the underwater camera, but I could also just look up and physically see
what's the fish happening. What's the fish coming down the
yeah, you even knew like if there was any fish in the swim in the first place. It was bizarre.
And they were big as well, weren't they? They were big.
Big
it wasn't
fish.
like they were small fish.
Yeah,
I'm going to try and find because I've started looking now. I'm going to try and find this little bit of coverage because it was fantastic.
So while Rob's looking for that footage on today's live, we are going to touch on a few things. We're going to touch on some recent results from us and for notable results that we've seen over the past few days. We are going to Just talk a little bit about the time of year and what we're looking for in terms of how, species, if you still want to get out, a little bit of tips and advice. And we're also going to, touch on plans for the new year. So what we want you guys to do while you're watching is at this time of year, Rob and I are planning now for 2024 videos, more from like spring onwards. We already know what we're going to do January, February time, but, spring onwards sort of thing. We would love to know what you guys think would be a great video. What would you like to see Rob and myself go into that level of detail, venues, type of fishing? Comment below what you would like to see, because obviously we want to give you guys what you want to see, and we really appreciate you tuning in. So have a think about that and comment below, and obviously Rob and I can take some of those on to the new year. Rob, have you found the footage or?
I'm just on it now. If this works, it'll be amazing. Show the
right.
Not quite there. I'd love to know, Lee. Talk me through your Medlands 2-dayer, because you had two great days, didn't you, last week at Medlands?
Yeah. So obviously,
obviously you're talking to Dan Webb. That was the match you were talking to him.
That is the match I was talking to Dan about. Yeah, absolutely. So last week was the On the Fly 2-day Silverfish Festival at Medlands. 38 people, I believe. Really good standard of angler at Medlands. And on the festivals that Gary Rogers is running on the flyer, I'm going to call it as close to a professional circuit as I've ever seen in match fishing. It's not cheap to enter, but there's good prizes to be won, which make it worthwhile. I think he paid 6 people out of that, which I thought was great, rather than just the top few. I think he paid 7, might have even paid 7, I think, which was brilliant. He's paying 2 in a section, and he pays a prize for the highest overall weight over 2 days. So, it's really great what he's doing, in my opinion.
It strikes me. I watched the snooker last night. Obviously, Ronnie O'Sullivan winning the UK champs. And it seems like that sort of thing. He's trying to create this different venues, like you said, a professional setup.
Yeah, it's a professional setup. I'm not going to call it a circuit because what the events he does are so diverse, but I think there's something in there for a lot of people. So after Riddings, I'd been Riddings the week before, and I sort of invested a little bit to go. I think I had 7 matches in 8 days. So this is why I wasn't available last week. It was a brilliant 2 days. I drew on Warren Lake both days. And what's interesting is unbelievably, I drew exactly the same peg both days. Now, the peg was 37 inches deep. And I know that because there's marks on the old top kits these days. So I can tell you that it was very shallow. But there's a lot of these shallow type lakes, and they hold a lot of fish. They hold roach and skimmers and that sort of thing. And you're trying to avoid the carp. So if you were going carp fishing on that type of lake, one thing that I have definitely noticed, Rob, is that anywhere you loose feed, you draw carp. It must be the noise. Ground bait was always good for drawing them in, but the noise of loose feed, anyone I saw loose feeding, like any amount of bait, was like just carped out. I was next to Paul Holland, and he was on a particularly powerful carp peg. I'm saying it was a horrible day for Paul in terms of carp, but he switched, and he thought about feeding baits that didn't make as much noise, and that's the sort of thing that is important, I think, when there's a lot of carp about. But if I was carp fishing, and it taught me that if I was going carp fishing, need to remember that noise is so important. But I basically caught on ground bait on 2 lines. On the first day, I never had a bite for 2 hours, which is something you've got to be really ready for this time of year. You can't be getting on your peg and thinking, right, I'm going to catch from the start. Going to take my time, and obviously almost like try to gear up for what the day might hold. I often start on a feeder in the winter because I just feel like I want to give my pole lines a chance to settle down a little bit. Never, like I said, didn't catch anything for 2 hours, and then just started to catch the odd skimmers. And I've learned a lot in the last few weeks about this type of fishing, or just reminded myself really. I just used a very strong fish meal ground bait, fed my peg negatively, not a lot of bait in my ground bait, and just tried to pick off fish. Tried to like catch a couple around it, keep laying my rig in, and just eat the most out of every line. And I felt I did that really well. On the first day, I weighed 23 pound 7, something like that, and that won the section. And there was a couple of 13 pounds, you know, which you can see. Obviously, must have been on a good peg, but I really felt like with the stamp of fish that you were catching, if you could keep them coming, those extra few fish made the difference.
What size fish are there?
Yeah, on the first day they were like
a lot of hand size fish.
On the first day they were like 6 ounce to 2 pound, Rob, but I did have plenty around the pound mark. And then on the second day, I never had a single. I had 2 fish on a feeder, both like 2 fish for 3 pound with an hour to go, and then I caught another 12 on the pole. And I weighed 15 pounds. So bearing in mind, I've had 2 roach, 2 little hand-sized skimmers. The rest were like pound to 2.5 pound fish, which is really exciting. You know, like, because it's shallow, you know they're there. You get little indications when you strike. You have that moment where, is that a carp? Because you've got such light elastic on, and then it's not.
Are you using your number 6? Your number 6 lagger?
Single 4.
Single 4?
Mm-hmm. You had to. You couldn't use. If you struck with a 6, it was so shallow that if you hooked like anything under a pound, it just went like on the surface immediately, which I'm trying to avoid.
When you're hooking your carp, what's happening?
They just run off and pull off, really. Okay. I hooked 5 carp, not many. I landed 1, and the rest are literally just put them under a lot of pressure.
Do you think that's all due to how you fed it, that you've not hooked as many carp?
No, I don't. I think that there was more on the first day. There was a lot more carp to my right. I think that I did myself a favour because the only place I hooked carp, I never had a bite from a silverfish on my short line, and I loose fed casters there, and 3 of my 5 carp I hooked on my short line. And I thought, is that coincidence that's where I'm getting the rattle of casters all the time? I don't think it is. I think if I'd have loose fed heavy or loose fed like a dozen casters on my long line, I think there's a great chance I could have attracted carp there as well. And I really held back topping up like a lot more. I think it's a bit weird, you know, silverfish fishing, Rob, because in the last sort of 10 days, I'm a bit like, what's it teaching me about fishing? Because I'm actually trying to avoid fish. I'm avoiding things that I know work for fish, topping up, making noise. I'm like catching a few fish and then going on another line and then eking another couple out of there. And it's like, it's not right. It's like, oh God, I want to top up. I want to give them some more bait, but I know.
Let's go back to Riddings a couple of weeks ago when you have literally like fed some bait and just rotated lines, but not really topping up anything. And I've tried to top it up, maybe catch 2 or 3 fish, then top up with only a little tiny ball of bait, obviously freezing cold. And it just wasn't, it just didn't seem, it felt like I was doing the right thing. And it felt like I've done this really nice and I've kept control of my pegs, but it wasn't getting the result that I wanted to do. And I rewind back to when I was fishing quite a few silverfish matches at Rycroft, venue where you catch some early skimmers and then you come short, catch some fish on casters on that loose fed line late on. The way that I would start when a lot of people were feeding ground bait, if I knew there's some skimmers in the air, especially those 4 ounce to a pound skimmers, I'd be fishing pellets, middle of winter still, and I'd feed loads at the start, you know, Lee, almost like as much as I dare at the start, because I wanted that to last for the whole match. And I'd feed like a big pot full. It'd be absolutely freezing. I'd feed a big pot full at sort of like 13 meters and then fish past it, around it with an expander, laying it through the water, just hoping that some fish sort of settle over those pellets and maybe just pick at the odd one. And then my expander falls through and they make a little dot at that bit of bait. But it was too much bait on the bottom. And you'd think, well, that's just going to attract carp, but you get the odd one. But I think because it's not a lot going on in the swim.
No, and I think if you took that same cup of bait and I said to you, right, feed that over the next 2 hours regularly, I think you'd have been carp to death.
Which is, I weren't carp to death when I was fishing at Riddins. I don't know what the head of carp was in the lake that I was fishing.
I think there's other fish at Riddings though, like goldfish and F1s and those. They're like busy fish that just the skimmers just think, nah, I'm not having any of this. They just back off. You know,
they do seem to like to almost like they like that bed of bait. And I always find as well, you know, when you have hooked a carp, that sort of after that carp is often your better run of fish, almost like your bait has been scattered over the bottom, so it's a wider area for those fish to graze over. And it's like they're the cleanup operation that come in after the carp have been in your swim, and then you start catching a few.
Yeah. Well, you've seen it on that underwater you're just talking about when a pike came in. The pike weren't striking at fish; they just come in, and every single silverfish goes. And as soon as the pike's out of shot, like 10 seconds later, they're like, "Yeah, we're back in here, lads." And it was exactly the same for me, Rob. And when we did the live match that's on YouTube at the moment, I was not happy. I topped up regularly. I wasn't happy with the control of the peg, with the fish, other fish, and all the rest of it. And then the next day, when I had the qualifier there, I felt so in control of what I was doing, because I realised that, and that's the only thing I've got in my head. Like, what am I teaching? I need to be careful, because if I took that same attitude to a lot of the other venues I go to or other styles of fishing I went to, it's like anti-catching fish.
It feels like it's too negative, doesn't it?
It is far too negative. It's far too negative, but it's the best way to get yourself good catches of those fish. So really, really interesting stuff, mate. I absolutely loved. Obviously, the weather's been horrific the last few days.
Yeah, I tell you what, guys, if you have managed to get out, if you've braved it over the weekend, let us know where you've been and what you've caught. Because I didn't go out. I've got to hold my hands up. I didn't go out. Be great to hear some.
Neither did I.
Yeah, it'd be great to hear some good news stories from people that have actually been out on the bank and had a go.
Yeah, it would be. And that was the thing with the medal. And so I ended up winning the section both days. I scored 2 points, which is obviously the best you can score. And there was 2 of us on 2 points. Andy Bennett had fished 2 brilliant matches on the other lake, and had 30 odd pound both days, which won the match both days. He drew the peg. He drew peg 11 and peg 10. So he's been in a very similar area both days. And so there was never a chance to beat him, because I was never going to catch the weight he caught off the lake I was on. But I was really happy with the 2 wins, Rob. Second overall, great pickup, nice trophy. A brilliant 2 days fishing.
Walk us through the match, the setup that he's trying to create then, Gary Rogers, because it does seem like he is trying to create, I'm not going to say elitist, but I'm going to say he's trying to create this bit of movement where he's running events all the time, trying to make it a little bit more professional, make angling more professional.
Look, if you're going to do anything like that, it has to be sustainable. It has to be something that's sustainable for everybody that's involved. That's, for me, is Gary's biggest challenge. First of all, it had to be sustainable for him, right? He makes no secret that he takes a decent amount of money out of the festivals that he runs. And I don't blame him, because he's there for 2 days filming, making sure the event goes well. He wants to put something out afterwards about the event, so he's going to be editing it afterwards as well. And I think those things are really important if you're going to run a professional setup. And effectively, it's expensive to enter, but you can win some money. And a lot of people always sort of saw matches as, well, if I put 20 quid in and a day ticket's a tenner, let's say, I don't want the organizer taking any money out. Well, all that happens is you just end up with local, low-level, low-effort matches. And Gary's trying to create something that is going to make him a bit of a living and sustain it, which will give him the enthusiasm to run lots of events. What his challenge is making sure there's enough people to do that, because you know, it's expensive. It's expensive. A Riddings Festival, 250 quid. You know, Meadowlands is 200 quid.
To carry on, Gary's got to do. This is the same for everybody. You'll know it from Feeder Masters. For it to carry on, you need a sponsor, and you could have a sponsor for each event. But to get the sponsor, you need a really good media presence to push those events and push obviously a sponsor's name out there in places. So eventually, and I really hope this happens, Gary gets involved with some people that are willing to sponsor his events. The anglers will benefit, and because hopefully there'll be more money in the pot for the anglers to win. There'll be more media about the event, so they'll become more there'll be more kudos attached to those events, and then it just snowballs on, then doesn't it? And it just keeps going and going.
Yeah, he could do with almost like to ensure there's quality over quantity to make sure that people, you know, it's appealing to your sponsors. But it's an interesting time for fishing. I saw, you know, I've seen other organisers saying like, look, I'm running these, you know, we're going to need an admin fee, and I think that's brilliant. I think if you want to fish brilliant competitions, you need people organising them. You need, you know, I do a lot of match organising myself, and I love to think that the competitions that I'm running are good, but it's, you know, it's part of what I do. I have to do it in a professional manner, otherwise
I've got no issue with anybody taking money out. You've just obviously got to let people know before the start. This is
the payout. This is how much it's the payout,
which it is with Gary, with what Gary's doing.
Yeah.
So make it transparent, and then run it to the best of your ability. And it's up to people whether they want to go on the competition or not, isn't it?
And a recent video we did touched on, is match fishing too expensive, which I'm sure a lot of you have watched on the YouTube channel. And yeah, that form of match fishing is. And like we touched on the video, you know, that is expensive, but there is also your cost cutter matches at Lindome where it's 15 quid pools.
Yeah, is it a way of, it's not because it's financial, it's not to do with necessary skill level, but does that denote eventually the skill level of a competition?
Maybe only because it doesn't incentivize.
I mean, I'm saying skill level.
Guys. Yeah, I mean, I have to. You know, yeah, if I'm not going to drive down to Riddings, which is, well, and Meadowlands, I stayed overnight. It's 2 hours 15 minutes from my house. Riddings was 1 hour and 50 minutes every day traveling. I'm not going to go there for their Wednesday Open cost cutter match because it's a long way away. You know, and I'm not going to go all that way for something that's lower profile. So that doesn't mean to say that the local anglers are any better or worse than I am, but I think it doesn't attract as global an audience when they're lower cost. By that I mean there's no incentive for people to make the extra effort to go, but it is an incentive for your local guys to go, yeah, I want to go here and have a great fishing match against people I know. If Rob Wotton wants to come from 1 hour away, that's his choice. But for you, Rob, to go on a match that's 1 hour away is going to cost you 50 quid's worth of fuel. It's going to cost you all your bits and bobs. You'd rather put an extra tenner in the pools and have a chance of winning all that back than you would get in there and fishing for 15 quid. And
you know,
it's each to their own.
Yeah, I've never really gone. I suppose in the last 10 years, maybe. I think there was a time when I was fishing a lot of commercials and I was fishing smaller matches that finances would maybe come into it, and you sort of think, oh, that's all right, 100 quid today or 150 quid. But I don't think from the last, maybe since I started more team events, because you just expect your money to just be frittered away, I've not really looked at it as a recouping my cost exercise. It's more about what's that event? Is that event got a load of kudos attached to it? Is it a prestigious event? Is that one that I want to fish? And if it's not, I probably won't fish it. And the other flip side of that is it enjoyable to go? So I've got some local venues near me that I'll go and have an enjoyable day's fishing, get in my car, drive 5-10 minutes, have a great day's fishing.
which is the summary. 5, 10 minutes.
The winner could win 15 quid, 20 quid. It could be nothing.
Yeah.
That's not the point. That's just about getting out of the house, going for a day's fishing locally.
Which is the key.
But I'm not crowing about those matches. I'm not, shouting.
You're enjoying your match, though. You're enjoying your day out.
But by the same token, if I was to go on a more prestigious event that's well run, I'm not necessarily asking how much you're going to win or what your payout is. I wasn't going when I fished to qualify a couple of weeks ago at Riddings. I wasn't hoping to win me 80 quid or 100 quid to cover me day. I'm trying to qualify for the final. That's it. I'm not trying to walk away with some money. But I appreciate I think that's the attitude that a lot of the people have taken who have immersed themselves into those matches. It's almost like I'm fishing for the prestige here, and the money will eventually follow.
That's right. You're absolutely bang on. Yeah. No, you're absolutely bang on.
If you started counting the pennies and you pack it in straight away, I think.
Yeah, of course you would, because it's not sustainable. It's just not. It's not. That's exactly right. So I think that all those things go hand in hand together, and I think it's great. I'm personally loving seeing what Gary's doing, and obviously at the same time, a couple of years ago, I was fishing the local Psych House Winter League, which I absolutely loved, and it was nothing to do with it. I didn't even know what the money was. It didn't even matter to me. I just wanted to win it. Because it was a good league, was a good match. So
yeah, good fishing, good match, nice and easy to get to. Right, let's read out a few of these comments because we've had a few come in. We want to know where you've been fishing this weekend. We want to know what videos you would love to see us film next year. Obviously, underwater has been really popular. So anything underwater that you can think of that you'd love to see us get out and film. And also, do you think do you feel that fishing's expensive? And what have you done to alter your own fishing? As in, what do you feel have you had to change anything? Have you had to start using different baits because some baits are more expensive? Have you had to start going different places? I'd love to know if you've had to change your own fishing.
What appeals to you? Yeah.
What because fishing's got a bit more expensive. So Neil S, afternoon fellas. Could you do a feature on a tidal river of Norfolk Broads? You'd love to, wouldn't you?
Oh my God, count me in.
So here's a 2-dayer for you. Listen, here's a 2-dayer.
Floating feeder.
Neil Ellis, can you do a feature on a tidal river of the Norfolk Broads? Next day, fishing a Fenland drain during summer, i.e. Tidgoat or Bargot drain.
Cool, flipping out.
Imagine shanking a load of big tench or big rod in the summer.
Yeah, you'd be tenching and rodding, I think. Yeah.
That'd be a great two amazing videos. We could do that. We could have a weekend or a couple of days doing that. Get the filming team down there, have a stopover.
Oh, they love it.
Travel and living tips. More underwater. So he loves the underwater. You guys, and with you guys interpreting what we are seeing, it's pure gold. Top anglers, yes, get in there. Using top methods of research. Nothing better than this. What an absolute guy. Andrew Bailey, afternoon lads. Do you know when you will start the coaching days for 2024? So yeah, we spoke about this. January time, we usually release the dates. So we'll try and go. We'll probably release at least 5 to start with. Different venues, Premier Fisheries, places like Boston, the Glebe, Lindome, proper places that you're really going to get looked after and you're going to get loads of bites. But we'll release them in January for you. Let's go clicking through. Right, Stuart Southern, I'm going to say. Afternoon, lads, and Neil. I was at Springvale, had 5-eyed and a chub for £5 and squeaked a section win. That's how tough that is, Lee, at the weekend. 5-eyed and a chub.
I got complete. I hope you had a really warm brew when you got inside. While you were doing that, I was watching a thriller, Man City versus Tottenham. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I was watching that as well. Yeah, it's a fantastic game, wasn't it? Peatling Pools, great day out, Andrew Bailey. Oh, God, it's Neil Potter. This would be a difficult one, wouldn't it? An underwater video at Southfield or a similar venue would be good. Yeah, I bet, Neil. That's like, what's that? The Holy Grail, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's finding somewhere clear enough to do that is really difficult.
Yeah, I think so. If you know a clear skimmer venue, let us know, because we'd love to go and catch some skimmers. But it needs to be like glass. Unfortunately, I can't upload this video, Lee, onto
Oh dear.
I can't upload it. I'd love to. Mick Tonks, fishing Chris Hill's Winter League at Barston. Is it too early for Bloodworm and Joker?
No.
Hang on.
Rick.
He fished Patachel yesterday, had a couple of nice bream. Tippo won 14 pound of skimmers. So still some skimmers feeding at Patachel. But Barston, is it too early for Worm and Joker? What do you think?
Definitely not. No, not now. I always think once the air temperature is below 5 degrees, I think you're anywhere where Bloodworm and Joker's allowed, it really comes into its own. Mick, so I would be giving myself somewhere that you might have an arrival, maybe. And then obviously just taking it steady, tiny bits of Joker, fishing Bloodworm on the hook. I think without a doubt that will get you more bites at the moment. Once the air temperature then gets back up to like 8 degrees or more, you'll probably be looking at your other baits. In my humble opinion,
I think it's important to know, because you can get Worm and Joker. You can get it if you know where to, the shops to get it from and to source it. A lot of people get so confused with what to do with Worm and Joker, don't they? But it's literally have some Joker in a bait tub on your side tray, and just like in your little chop worm tub, if you want to add a bit of Joker to your feeder, pinch a bit of Joker, put it in your ground bait, scoop up your feeder, chuck it out. It's literally, don't get confused. You're adding a bit of bob of Joker to your ground bait and chucking it out.
Is that our January video, Rob?
It could be Worm and Joker feeder fishing.
Worm and Joker feeder fishing, yeah.
We know that people see Bloodworm and Joker, and it's like, oh my God, I'm scared to death. What am I doing with that? Do I dump a load in at the start? Well, let me tell you, it's just another bait. It's literally, think of it as dead pinkies. If you were to put in a blob of dead pinkies in your feeder and chuck it out, you're doing the same with Joker, but it's more attractive. It attracts more fish into your peg, sometimes smaller fish. You've got to work that out during the day.
Yeah.
But just don't let it get to you. Richard Webb, what's your thoughts on anglers constantly ringing each other during a match? Do you find it annoying? Should it be allowed? And do you think it can gain an advantage? What do you feel, Lee? Because it happens, doesn't it? Especially on feeder matches. There's a lot of ringing to and fro. He's had 2, I've had 3. Just started fishing worms.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me, if I'm being honest. Because I think a lot of the time in individual matches, nobody's giving anything away. Like, nobody's ringing his mate and going, hey, listen, get on the bread, because he wants to win anyway.
Yeah.
Team matches, it's slightly different. And I think, why not? But I find it hard to be on the phone and fish. I really find that difficult. So I don't tend to do it. If I, like I said, unless I'm waiting for bites. The only place I've ever really used the phone, find out what's going on, Rob, is Southfield, because you obviously wait so long between your bites. Might text up and say, oh, what have you got, Rob? But that's it, really. No, I feel like you can't hide away from phones. In all of our matches, like in the team matches, they sometimes say, oh, we're allowed to use phones. And I say, well, it's not the 90s. So, yeah. Just use them.
I see some people constantly on the phone during a match, and yeah, they probably are gaining an advantage. But for me, quite often, especially during a big match, I just put my phone under my side tray and I'll pick it up if I'm struggling, and that is it. But I'm not ringing my mate asking, am I catching a maggot's working, or is worms working, or
yeah.
I'm not ringing anyone asking them that. So like you said, in an individual match, is anyone not being funny? If I was to ring you in an individual match and you've got about £50, I've got £40, you're not going to tell me to start.
No, I'm gonna tell you to go on worms when we catch them.
Yeah, you're going to put me on a right bum steer. But obviously after the match, you said I had a job, and likewise, I wouldn't ring you anyway, because I think that's not really the right thing to do.
No, it's not cricket, is it? It's not cricket. No.
So team match, I can see it. I think a team match is good, and especially I tell you where it's good for a team match. There's more and more professional outfits cropping up within team events, isn't there? You've got 2 or 3 back
without
runners
a
on
doubt,
them.
yeah.
Barnes is a
without a
classic
doubt.
example. Our Ringers team, classic example. 2 or 3 bank runners on an event. Some teams just haven't got that. So to allow them to be using phones and to sort of almost embrace that, it helps those other teams out that haven't got that that backing of
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Right, Andrew Saunders, where are you getting your Blue Women Joker from, please? Right, 2 places, 2 of the main places, I'd say. Sam Wildsmith, he's still getting a little bit at middle tackle. You should be able to speak to Sam and try and get some from him, or Taffy's tackle. So if you're near to either of those places, have a look.
Taffy's Bloodworm will deliver it to you.
Yeah.
So if you contact them, he'll post it out to you. So that's a good option. And Sam sometimes has a bit in his shop. They're the sort of 2 UK sources, really.
Did Tackle Shack have some as well?
I think so, but I don't know the ins and outs of.
No, I don't know how you attain that. But Taffy's tackle, like you say, Lee says.
Taffy's Bloodworm on Facebook's a good contact for that, or like I say, Sam's got some. Yeah,
superb. Mark Workman, hello, Rob and Lee. Just a quick question. I've been banned for 3 matches for framing 3 times in a row. Framing 3 times in a row. So he's been banned. He's basically been hamstring because he's won 3. He's framed 3 times in a row from a local Canal Open match. Have you ever heard of these kind of shenanigans? Not for framing 3 times in a row, but obviously, if Mark's turning up, and with all due respect to the people that he's fishing against, if they're obviously just a group of anglers that they all know that Mark's turning up and he's going to beat them, they might just have a polite word and say, Mark, go on a different match, mate. We're quite happy as a group of mates.
It depends what your match is, doesn't it? I think like smaller clubs or a group of mates, I think often they're comfortable.
I don't know about you when you were younger, Lee. Like I say, when I was fishing a lot of commercial matches, local commercial matches, and I was a cheeky early 20-year-old who thought he knew it all, but looking back probably didn't, like a lot of obviously young lads. And I was doing quite well. I would turn up and you could tell that they didn't want you there on the matches. But
I was never that good, Rob, so I didn't suffer from that problem. But
yeah, but you can tell that. But there was never I think it becomes a club once you start banning people, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and I've seen it before. I've seen it. Yeah, you'd often go to local open matches and on a water, and you'd have a group of people, and even within that group, there'll be little him and him don't really like him and him, but they both get their turns at winning, so it's not that bad. But obviously, if you go in somewhere where it's a mixed standard and nobody really dominates, and you consistently dominate, you might want to go and look for something else, which is a shame. But it's not an open. If
Mark's turns to match
and the ball, if that happens, it's a club. It's not an open match.
They've got
Lindome's never banning anyone for being too good. That's not happening.
No. Fisheries don't generally do that.
No.
Organisations don't necessarily do that who are trying to kick on, but a club of 5, 10, 15 mates might do that.
Yeah, for sure.
But you'll be back, Mark. I think you'll be back. Obviously, you've got some sort of secret if you frame it 3 times in a row.
Yeah. Let's know what it is, Mark.
I'll play the game a little bit. Maybe not win the next match.
Yeah. Go and fish like lobbies or something.
Yeah, just go and just try and throw the next match, then get in. I'll tell you what helps, Mark. And I found this. Tell everyone exactly what you're doing. So after the match, not in a big-headed way that how you've done it, but whenever anyone asks you, tell them and just say, this is how I've done it, and show them your rigs and show them your bait, because it's obvious that you're doing really well, and just try and come across as nice guy Mark, and hopefully they'll take that away, and there'll be a few guys in that club that will sort of change their mind on you. Then you can go again, can't you? That's the way to do it. Right. I want to know where you're going this week.
I want to give it. I'm going to tell you, and I also don't forget. I want to finish with a shout out for the Masters lads. This week, This week, I have got a couple of work-related trips out on the bank, but as of right now, I have nothing penciled in for next Saturday, Sunday, which is a rarity for me. But because I sort of fish those qualifiers and what have you, and don't fish any leagues because of the qualifiers stop you fishing the leagues, I've not got anything on. And then I've got obviously feeder pairs the week after. But I'm not bothered, Rob, after we were talking about this off camera before the start, a ridiculously intense year. And then, fishing 7 matches in 8 days, I was looking forward to a little bit of time off. So I haven't got anything scheduled for next weekend. What about yourself?
No, I'm football coaching at the weekend again.
Right. So,
if
you want to tune in for some football coaching advice,
this week I was hoping to get out with you, but obviously with the weather has scuppered that.
Yeah, we were due to get out, weren't we?
But we do want, and I don't know whether this is a private message. Maybe you can announce it, but we'd rather a private message. We want somewhere where we can go catch some beautiful roach, not 4, 5, 6 ounce roach, 8 ounce roach, but big roach. Chance of like £2 plus roach on a feeder.
Big roach.
Big roach.
Yeah,
so
we're going to do better.
There's got a bit of advice of how we can do that. That would be more than welcome.
That would be indeed, yeah.
We'd love to go out, try and catch up. I've seen some linear, and obviously they're catching like £4 roach, but I've just got no idea where to start at that place. So
I think you need to go a few times. I still don't fancy going when it's. I went outside just to drop kids off this morning and thought, no, I'm not. I thought I'm going to stay and get my gear ready. No, I think we
talk about the Masters because Sci-Fi was coming for. Here we go. Look, yeah, that's where I was saying, Lee. Woodlands Waters, maybe. So I was watching the results at the weekend. The Masters feeder World Championships. Same rules as that we fish to in our feeder World Championships. So traditional style feeder fishing, no pellets, all that sort of thing. Venue was a venue close to where we've fished before in Italy, just off the Ostellato. So it's like a huge drain, series of drains. And the drain that they were fishing looked probably 40 meters wide, something like that. Didn't look very wide. And the team was, hopefully I don't forget anybody, Andrew Moss, Tommy Pickering, Darren Cox, Simon Fry, Rich Vaughan. Is that it?
That was the team that fished on the day, and then they had a lot of. They went as 10, didn't they? With like Dave Berry and Steve Welford, and Nigel Franks, and Mark Morris, and probably someone else that's just escaping my recollection at this very moment in time. But
so they went with a real professional outfit. Obviously,
very good.
Tommy gets involved. He tries to get as professional as possible. And I think they've all, because they've been on this now for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, and they're getting it they're getting better every time. They're like well up to speed with all obviously the Europeans, and they're fantastic anglers in their own right. So I'm watching the results on Saturday, and I'm thinking, God, they're brilliant. Like joint first as a team. A couple of guys have like done well in their section. This is mega. And then Sunday, the results come through, and there's a little bit of a rumor going around on Facebook, and I'm looking at Facebook trying to find out. And one of the French guys said, "Well done to Sci-Fry on winning the World Championships." And I was like, "Really?" So as soon as that come on, I've sent Simon a message saying, "Have you won it?" And nothing come back. Then about 10 minutes later, it was confirmed. And I've obviously sent it back. I can't believe it. You've won it. Well, that's incredible. And I think because he's such a nice guy, I've seen it all over Facebook, and obviously everyone commenting saying, "Isn't it great, Sci-Fry, like winning that?" Because he's such. Obviously, everyone likes Sci. He's a fantastic angler.
Yeah, he's been match fishing a long time, and I absolutely love to see success like that. Anyone English, but more so when we know them and we fish on the same matches with them. We fish that, my fishing and your fishing takes us to the same venues Simon is fishing very often. Darren is fishing, Tommy is fishing, Rich Vaughan is fishing. We are, Andy Moss is fishing. We are going to those venues very often. And you know, it was such an amazing thing. So that the team finished second, a brilliant second. So I was really delighted for them. And just to see,
So what is the Masters League? Is it over?
I think it's over 55s. Yeah,
over
yeah.
55.
So
So
you've got another 18 months, Rob, haven't you?
we might get there one day, might we?
Yeah, you never know.
I don't know. If I'd love to. I think I'd like to be doing that.
That just looks like a great. I'll tell you what I love about it. I love the fact that they're all enjoying what they're doing. I spoke to Nigel Franks when he took on the job. You know, enjoyment's number one. It's got to be. It's got to be number one. I think there's certain things you do in life when, you know, obviously we enjoy the World Championships with England, giving it 110%. That's part of the enjoyment for me, the massive effort that goes in. But having the, you know, enjoying the experience with everyone you're doing it with is vital to getting that success as well. So really chuffed for them. I think we should try and tap Sci-Fi up to tell us all about it next week.
Yeah, we'll definitely get a bit of inside info from one of them, won't we?
I think we need to be getting him on as a special guest. I think
so. See what he's doing. I know he's obviously a very busy guy, but we'll try and get at least someone on from that crew.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say preferably Simon, because obviously I don't mind.
Oh, we love them all. We love them all. But listen, if we can't have the world champ, we'll get some. We'll get a silver medalist instead.
World champ, don't we? Right, folks. Thank you very much. Well done to the Masters team, Sci-Fi. Well done, everybody. We will see you next Monday.
See you next Monday, guys.